so happy we alive.
Quadriplegia. There are 3 perfectly good medicines around. They are baclofen, dantrolene, and Valium. Well, baclofen is of marginal utility. Dantrolene is also really very few people get it. The side effects are terrific, and one of them has serious toxic possibilities for the liver. When you talk about Valium, in order to get into the kinds of antispasmodic effects you need from Valium, these people have to get up to something like 40 milligrams a day. Well, if you take 40 milligrams a day of Valium, you're zonked. There isn't much else you can do. So for them to so glibly say we have medicines which do this is, in my opinion, just a little bit disingenuous, to say the least.
Thank you, Dr. Grinspoon.
Hello. One of the benefits you mentioned with isolating different components is that you said the pain relief may not be associated with the hallucinatory effects. But what if the claims are true?
No, that's what the government says.
Okay.
And Keith Hollowell, the drug czar in Britain, I'm beginning to think that Keith Hollowell sounds so much like Barry McCaffrey that maybe drug czars suffer from a brain disorder.
Anyway, I wanted to ask you about some other effects, actually.
I would characterize that disorder as anandamide deficiency syndrome. And of course, poor Barry McCaffrey, it's easily remedied. But I'm not likely to buy into that.
Well, I'm not a doctor, but I have heard of some studies that show maybe there are some addictive properties in some components of the whole plant and some anti-addictive properties in others, and the cannabinoids would be the ones that have addictive properties, and by separating it from the plant, you're taking away the anti-addictive that normally comes along with these other components.
Well, you see, I don't believe that. But what I do, but I think your point is well taken when you talk about separating, separating out these analogs, or more specifically developing, separating out the cannabinoids, more specifically developing cannabinoid analogs. Now, you see, one of the things we know about whole marijuana plant as a medicine, nobody has ever died from marijuana. Imagine, is there another drug in the whole pharmacopoeia about which you can say there has never been a death? You can't do that. But that's because it has a therapeutic ratio. By therapeutic ratio, the ratio of the amount of drug it takes to kill a population of, and the LD50, a population, 50% of a population, only the amount of drug to get the desired effect. Now, in cannabis, that ratio we can't determine from human creatures, we can only extrapolate from animals. It's somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000. There's no other drug that has that. But then, we're getting into analogs now. We're developing these things. Hopefully these guys who are going to interest the drug companies. I think they're going to have a tough sell unless there's such a level of enforcement and we start arresting even more than 600,000 people for using it so that people are afraid to use it. But they're developing these things, and as I say, one already has been elaborated that has 500 times the psychoactive effect. We have no experience. You can't get that much cannabis into you no matter how hard you try. We have no experience with that degree of psychoactivity. And the other thing is, as I say, you take whole cannabis, and whether you smoke it or eat it or put it through your ears or whatever, you're not going to get enough in it, in yourself, to lead to death. But what about these new analogs? I mean, pills, you can swallow whole bottles of them. We just don't know whether that kind of safety will be assured when we come to dispensing these kinds of analogs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Grinspoon. That was a great way to start off the day. We're going to move directly to the next panel, so I would invite the panelists for the 9:45 panel to come up to the front. We'll be putting their name tags up here. And I just want to say that this panel was put together by Norman Kent, who is a lawyer in Florida, a longtime advocate of marijuana law reform, and more recently, and also a member of the Normal Board of Directors. More recently, he's become himself a medical user of marijuana, and obviously the issue has become much more important to him. Unfortunately, it turns out he's not able to be with us today, so we have prevailed upon Dr. Grinspoon.
I have been asked to substitute for Norm Kent, who was supposed to be here and chair this panel. Unfortunately, Norm Kent, who lives in Florida, is too ill to come up today. He is a man who has personal experience with cannabis and its usefulness as a medicine, and also he is a lawyer who has defended any number of people who have gotten into trouble because they use it as a medicine. We thought it would be, nowadays nobody needs to be convinced that we in the past we've had panels of patients who get up and tell their story about this, and they're always compelling and often very moving stories. But today we thought the emphasis should be on the ways in which these folks who find this medicine more useful than what conventional allopathic medicine offers them for the treatment of the particular symptom or syndrome from which they suffer, the problem that they've had with the law and how the illegality has made their lives much more difficult. It strikes me it's such a cruelty that people who have to deal with a chronic disease have to add another layer of anxiety, a layer of anxiety imposed by the hanging over their head prospect, the sword of Damocles, that they could get arrested for using this substance. So that is what the focus on this particular panel is. What part has the law, and in one case, what it's meant to a physician when her licensing board noted that she was using this as a medicine. Now, I'd like to start out with Valerie Corral, whom I've known for a long time. Valerie wrote an account of the use of cannabis in the treatment of her epilepsy for marijuana, the forbidden medicine. Valerie, as a young woman, if I recollect, and you correct me, was leaving Las Vegas or someplace?
Outside of Reno.
Outside of Reno in her nice convertible when she was buzzed by some idiot in an airplane. Came so close, the car turned over, she was badly hurt. And she ended up with epilepsy. And she has had a couple of brushes with the law. I mean, what Valerie discovered was all the conventional drugs didn't do it for her. Cannabis does. And I believe you use cannabis alone now. You don't use any of the other. She does not use Dilantin or any of the other drugs. So, and Valerie, I should also say, was so impressed with what this substance did for her. She has formed an organization, Women's Alliance, and Valerie is a regular Florence Nightingale. She